End of the day. Still pouring rain. Pissing rain. This is a bad way to wind it down. Listen to more very, very interesting emails from people. It's funny, got a few emails about the car in the shop here, but I thought that I think I already showed you guys the car quick last summer, didn't I, out in the driveway? Anyway, I've had that thing for quite a while, and it's a 68 SS 396, the real one, 4-speed, and it's all original, nothing's been messed with. So that's what that is. Yeah, I don't know, I bought it. Actually, I brought it home, and my gelding was born the exact same day I bought the car home. I won that was 12 or 13 years ago or something maybe. So there you go. Bent these suckers up pretty good. Anyway, so let's make this about other people right now. And listen to what we got. It keeps getting just more and more every day. And I look forward to reading these every single day. I can't get enough of hearing from everybody, to be honest. Second time. Not seeing is believing. I'm a hunter and worked for the veteran PMEL and worked for the FAA in a few places around the country. Canada, US, and Alaska. Until I retired, I never had any experiences with these creatures. I, with my son, accidentally walked into brown bears hunting area on Douglas Island. Never seen it, but there was a large fresh pile of asphalt steaming in our upper muskeg field. We looked around and saw nothing in the rainforest. I had a 454 Castle and an odd 6. My son had a 357 and a 30-30. I knew they were too small. I told my son we will head back down the mountain. I told my son to go down the hill as I watched and stood guard until he could have my back. And then I walked slowly towards him as he guarded. As I came up to him, we heard a loud roar from the bear. We never seen it. That was a bear though. We continued that way down the hill until we got to the van and left. Now our first strange encounter. We moved to Colorado, Western Slope. Again, I worked high sites all over the Rockies here and some in Wyoming. I never saw one. Now, retired, I like trail riding on my YZ 450 motorcycle. On a ride, my number 2 and I were riding up a trail up around from 9,500 feet. We're stopping to check out the lake for fishing. After one stop, I couldn't get my bike started and I was kicking it over and over, breathing heavily. I would stop and start trying to get the bike running. In the meantime, my son stopped down the trail about 100 feet in front of me waiting. I did a bonehead thing and I had choked the bike instead of leaning it out. Well, I get it started and ride past my son about another 50 feet past him by the lake. When he rode up to me, he asked me if I was huffing/sniffing loud. I thought he was talking about me being out of breath. I said yes. We decided to continue. We both started the bikes at the same time. Then came the scream/roar over both bikes, and with helmets on, it scared us so much we both booked up the trail about a half a mile before we stopped to talk. You know how loud those race bikes are? And we felt the roar. I think it was trying to smell my son, but never took off his helmet and would have smelled like exhaust, motor oil, gas, etc. When we got home, I searched for the sound until I found it. It wasn't the low roar, but a high-pitched. The match was a Washington State news call blasting recording of a younger Bigfoot for the news crew. The next day, me and my number 1 and number 2 went up armed and in a Jeep to see what evidence we could find. We found tracks that showed it was standing right next to my son, sniffing his head. Tracks also had one of the feet with a split heel. They were only about size 12 to 13 inches in size. That is what I wear. Obviously barefoot. We could see on the lower hill where its toes dug in. We tracked across the trail to a tree fall. There I found in the moss a 19-inch tracks, 2 inches deep. I couldn't duplicate it. Up the hill in the timber trail was a log with evidence of large animals sitting and eating a deer. Bones were all around the log. They sat on the log eating. In the middle of the trail, In the middle of the tree fall was what I call a deer trap. Logs were placed in such a way that it was easy to get in, but to hop out, it would slow the deer down. Also, right in the middle was the sun shining on grass visible from up the hill. The logs were also in a geometric pattern. They were placed there, as I said. As we further worked our way up the hill, I found where they were watching us that morning. Under a bunch of bushes, we could clearly see where they took off in 3 different directions up the hillway. Easy to follow, heavy dew was everywhere, and crushed, trampled foliage. We found farther up, aspens snapped at 8 feet to 10 feet up, and moved to the open area. Next, there were 2 huge trees stacked on top of each other, roots on opposite ends of each other. I got behind them and they were taller than me. I'm over 6'4". This was easily 8 feet tall and looked like a hunting blind. We left after my son said he heard voices up the hill. These things are intelligent as hell and they are capable of invisibility. They have mass while invisible and leave footprints and move objects while they are invisible. I have a theory on how they do it, and it has to do with the infrasound that some people say they hear. If you want more, we have since then run into these things a lot. Please only use my first name. Okay, Bob, I got you. I don't need to read where you're from. Are you kidding me? I'll share it all. We want to hear it all. Like you heard me say to everybody else, we've never told anybody no. Every single person that says, hey, if you want to hear more, ask away and I'll share more. No one's ever said, no, we don't want to hear any more about it. You know, I want to hear all about it, man. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about your feelings on the invisible part, what you've seen to convince you of that. And I want to hear what else you've seen. You've seen these things a whole bunch more times. It's pretty impressive. Share it all right? It sounds pretty freaky, the thing was sniffing your kid's head. What the hell is up with that? Alright, this is the title. You said on 3 different videos it didn't matter how long the story was. If it's knowledge for good, hard-working, honest people, send it all. Well, here you go, pal. Alright, man, let her rip. I'm here. My first life-changing experience that led me on this journey to knowing absolutely all I could find on what wasn't supposed to be began in 1972. I've paid attention to your videos all the way back, even before your grandfather's story. Nicely done. Nicely done. It's taken me decades to want to sit still and compile memories on a paper to share. Just for the record, typing is not any fun for people who would much rather be outdoors. It literally takes so many hours. We're about the same age, you and I. 12 to 15 encounters in 5 different states connected to my life over 49 years. I'm presently 58 years old. In this year of our Lord 2021, note 25 to 30 plus encounters connected to me during the 2 spring and summers of February 93 to October 94 in the Panhandle of Florida will all be grouped and counted as only one experience because they all happened at work. We were diligent, aggressive workers. Those happenings were their own chapter. Therefore, some might say that I've had near over 40 total experiences. Not all my experiences began with the wave of fear. On one occasion in 1982, it did not happen until 90% into the encounter, and I mentally talked myself out of the fear. That may have had something to do with 2 of them disappearing. Not all my experiences begin with or had an overwhelming olfactory sensation. That made me want to vomit. A mixture of all the worst smells you've ever experienced mixed up together, concentrated, and shoved up your nose to the point where you could taste it on your tongue. Over the years, I've sometimes wondered if there's something about me as to why this happened. I really don't know. Regarding self-reflection of this nature, I prefer to remain humble before the eyes of God. Side note, what you call pressure, I have called being vibed. For me, this is totally different from the sense of being watched. With my first being vibed experience occurring around October 1982, whitetail season in the deep, thick forest of southern Mississippi, I've had a couple of rare incidents whereby I noticed 2 different types of being vibed. The rarest and maybe the most unreported is what I would describe that of a slight sensation, then overall tingling inside my head around what I would call the area surrounding my brain. The only other feeling in my lifetime that has been closely akin to this sensation is when I experienced real absinthe indulgence in Czechoslovakia. I must note that the absinthe tingling encompassed all of my skin's exterior. This tingling sensation I'm referencing around my brain only happened a few times before these encounters. That location was at Mammoth Mountain, California, or what I can only refer to as the curious tree peakers, which I have noticed 3 or 4 plus times during summer, and downhill mountain biking occurring on different years. I must now note that what soon followed the afore-described sensation was the strongest, most intense tummy, stomach, cavity-shaking vibration wave that instantly turned into an emotion of great fear and danger. These were definitely by far the most intense encounters of being vibed ever in my life. Maybe more on those memories at another time. I will today try to recall an encounter in detail of a giant hairy being moving unbelievably fast on all fours directly toward me. This happened in late January '98. Location was I-10 west of San Antonio, about 2:30 to 3 a.m. I was driving a 27-foot U-Haul truck from Houston to the beach in Southern California. The truck I was driving was a Ford F350 or larger. I remember the hood was unusually high, a little more than 4.5 feet, maybe a little higher. There was some kind of governor on the carburetor. You could push the pedal with your foot 60% of the way, and that was going to achieve your maximum speed. If you pushed your foot further from that point, it just seemed like you were just wasting gas and it wasn't going to speed up any faster. Hang in there, these are important details. So, we're chugging along, trying to get whatever FM or AM station we could on the radio. It's a very long area of I-10 where there are no lights at all anywhere. The only light illumination in the pitch black at night was from the headlights of the U-Haul F350. We're basically headed west when all of a sudden, out of the darkness, something big was coming in super fast from the west-southwest. In my direction, where the 12 o'clock position, something big was coming in from the 10:30 to 11 o'clock position directly towards us. It was quickly obvious that this thing was on a collision course for the front left corner of the driver's side of the F350. Muscle memory had me place both hands on the wheel on the 10 and 2 positions and to softly get ready for an impact. I may have taken my foot off the pedal, I can't remember. I definitely kept my heading straight and forward on the road, which is what you do when an animal closely crosses your path. Never, never veer off. What was headed directly towards me was on all fours, arms and legs. Got that? Arms and legs. The head remained held high and up, mostly looking forward directly at me. I was looking at an awful lot of bushy hair about 5 to 7 inches long. The hair was moving, flying rapidly forward and backward, opposing the movement of the body of the being. Even with the hair flying everywhere, the top of the head still seemed coned or pointed up in the center, not rounded. I remember the propulsion as being very unusual. It appeared to me that this being was leaping forward, using the strength of the legs to push the body forward, while in the air, the line of the back was only had about 25 to 30 degrees from 0 degrees. Simultaneously, with the legs outstretched behind it, the arms would spring out and forward. The eyes were still able to look forward. The hands would then go down to the ground and start to pull the lower part of the body below it, with the feet just under its butt, touching the ground just past the hands already on the ground. The line of the back would then be at about 335 degrees before 0. While the head was tilted back a little, it was still looking forward. It looks like a super fast repeating vertical teeter-totter motion. It only went a total of about 50 degrees front to back, back to front, over 0 degrees, 25 degrees, leaning backward, over to about 25 degrees, leaning frontward. The butt and the feet were always a lot lower than the chest, and the shoulders were always much closer to the ground. Now, while the motion of the being was leaning forward, all the bushy hair was quickly moving backward, opposing the body. While the motion of the being was slightly leaning backward, All the bushy hair was quickly moving forward again, opposing the body. It was going so fast that all of its hair would move completely to its full length, lateral to the ground, back and forth. The color of the hair was a deep toned dark red, old rust on metal looking color. It was akin to the deep tone of red in red rock in the desert. Traveling 62 miles an hour, we would be moving about 90 feet per second. The beast came flying in the illumination of the headlights, heading straight towards me, while on all fours. At the very last possible moment, it veered to its left. It was now moving directly across, very closely, right in front of the truck. The hair was still flying front to back and back to front. His shoulders were partially visible above the hood. At about halfway across the middle of the hood, he started to move his left shoulder forward a bit and his right shoulder back a little bit. At that moment, an enormous right hand, the size of a first baseman's baseball glove, started to rise above the hood almost to his wrist. The palm was a lot longer than the proportion of a modern human. The fingers were enormous, long and fat. Again, it looked like a larger than normal baseball glove. Then the hand started to come down and lie flat just above the hood of the truck, barely touching it. While this is happening, the top of the head started to lean back a little bit and over toward me, just a small amount. It did not appear that it was turning its head. It appeared to me he was more moving his shoulders because his right eye was looking directly at me. This was intense to say the least. I could see his nose. It was hooded and wide spreading. Nostrils pointed down. The bridge of the nose was more down than out. The big black eye was looking right at me. There were no whites in this eye. The eyeball had a wet, shiny appearance. At this point, the side of the face was completely illuminated, within 3 to 4 feet of the passenger side headlamp. It seemed a heck of a lot closer. The right eyeball was pure dark black. No red or green reflection color, just black. The entire body then sort of spun around to its right with his hand on the passenger right corner. The truck at this point started to move ahead of the beast. He continued to run off quickly into the dark. My buddy screamed something and I screamed, "What the F was that?" My buddy then jokingly spurted out, "That was a jackalope." A jackalope is a Texas joke of deer antlers on a stuffed head of a jackrabbit. Usually women buy it for the men to put alongside their stuffed animal collection on the wall. I instantly spurted out, "That was a Sasquatch. That was a Sasquatch." We continued our long journey. He is a lifelong friend. He won't talk about it when I try to bring it up. 49 years of thoughts for the learning group. 1A. Estimated weights have been greatly off. Calculating tension, torsion, and geometry, the power needed to snap tree limbs would take muscle fibers that are a lot more dense than modern humans. More densely means more weight. A lot more weight means thicker, denser bones as well. Therefore, I think these beings are actually weighing between 12 and 1,600 pounds or greater. These mistakes are easily made because people think of modern humans as a comparative scale. Unfortunately, they're probably mistaken. A developing branch of a pre-prototype human from the early Pleistocene probably had denser muscle fibers to evolve into these beings. More on that later. Maybe a lot of the reason also why bones are probably going to be a lot thicker to carry this heavier weight. With very dense muscles in mass and dense heavier bones, most caliber pistols and most caliber rifles below 300 Win Mag just aren't going to affect it greatly. Just piss them off more. Do not shoot at these fantastic beings. Snapping tree limbs. Do remember, a lot of first-hand eyewitnesses accounts have listed a lot of these enormous beings as measuring 4 to 5 feet across the shoulders. There have also been first-hand eyewitness accounts of the side view of these giant beings having shoulders the size of basketballs. Not all, but a lot, enough to really matter. I postulate that with the extended long palms, they're reaching around these tree limbs and using their upper body weight and massive shoulders to reach around limbs, grab, squeeze, twist, hand, and simultaneously pull and twist shoulders and upper body. That's where an extra amount of extorted torsion will overcome the limb's tension. This exertion will literally loudly snap off green limbs up to and over 5 inches thick. This would result in a snapping sound that rivals a lot of rifle shots being fired. This would also allow the ability to pick up 50-pound rocks and hurl them up to 60 yards out, high overhead in an arcing flight pattern. 2A. I've often wondered if the tree structures, tree trunks that float in the air might represent the constellation of stars floating in the night sky as a POV from that observation point looking up at a particular time of year. 2B. I've often wondered if some of the teepee structures were actually more like nursery baby pens so the mother could go and hunt. 2B1. Orbs. These very well may be sentient life forms, probably not drones. If this is the case, then there is the credence to the alternate dimension or from an unworldly place hypothesis. 2C. Regarding trail cameras with infrared movement sensor lights, it's obvious at this point these fantastic beings can see something in the infrared light spectrum. I mean, it's just way so obvious a lot of people are even told / directed if they are having some problem beings to put up a bunch of these trail cameras around the property. What does that mean? It means they can see the infrared light emitting from the trail cameras. There have been even many accounts on properties where the stones or sticks were placed as a barrier line not to cross. Otherwise, the perimeter lights would come on or the cameras would activate. 3A, trying to take a body to present as a specimen. Yeah, right. The people that will only believe if they see a dead body really aren't worth responding to at all. They just don't get it. What we're dealing with here. This is an unbelievably stupid idea if you like your life. There's absolutely no way you're going to carry one of the 12 to 1600 pound beings out of the deep woods. Chances are the being will not be alone, and if so, he's certainly not going to make it out of the woods. One of just a few of the only reasons you should ever shoot to kill one of these beings is if they literally are trying to break in your home with you in it. And if it were to come to pass and you were lucky enough to land a kill shot, which probably won't happen, don't think for a moment that you, yes you, are going to be able to keep and present one of these beings' dead bodies. It will be taken from you. You will have zero control over the matter or what will happen to you from these bureaucrats and agencies that want to keep this covered up. You are completely insignificant in the realm of keeping this information classified, and protected. Yes, you will be completely handled, discredited, and or somehow disappeared if determined necessary. List of possibilities where they're from. A. Maybe an offshoot branch form of proto-human on Earth long before modern humans. From the time before the Pleistocene when all creatures grew very big, i.e. saber-toothed cats, giant woolly mammoth, giant sloth, etc., giant bears. Yet maybe these hairy beings made it and survived. They seem to definitely possess all the traits that would allow this to having occurred. Oh gee, the smarty pants academics got it wrong. That's a shocker. We cannot rule out the possibility that they are the original inhabitants of this planet, and somehow we modern humans did not completely evolve here as we were taught. B. Maybe not from Earth, but placed here for some reason. Might answer indigenous people's beliefs to existing in and out of part of the spirit world. C. Nephilim. Maybe the Creator, or the sons of gods, combined the DNA of modern man and animal, and this is part animalistic version of Nephilim, which the old men of renown, Nephilim and their offspring, were the true giants from the Old Testament that actually existed, or the sons of God, concocted to create another type of being with Neanderthal, Denisovian, or possibly an earlier pre-human prototype, and or something else to create these big, hairy, fantastic beings. Note, if the above has some reality, it too could be part of the spirit world description. Do not forget that from the Old Testament, the sons of God has still not been completely defined as to what they were. All different paradigms of Bible scholars have their own modern day interpretation of the sons of God. Each and every one of them tries to lump their version of interpretation to fit their own systematic narrative. You cannot objectively read and interpret ancient pre-Sumerian. Your conclusion more than likely will be wrong. D. Maybe they could be something coming from another dimension or place. Maybe they could be something sent through from another dimension or place that arrived here by accident. We're supposed to go somewhere else. Note, the above could be two completely different scenarios. This also could clarify the spirit world descriptions. D1. Maybe they've been here all along, and long before us, existing side by side with us, yet in much higher or lower frequency band that we cannot detect with our senses. This would give even more credence to the First Nations beliefs. E. It seems like for some reason we, modern humans, are mostly off limits. There are outliers with everything. There are a lot of indicators / stories that occasionally humans are taken. It is by no way unreasonable to conclude that occasionally modern humans are consumed / eaten. However, we probably normally are not on the menu. Could it be a rule to them or something to stay away from us? Maybe they get punished somehow? For that part doesn't make sense to us in our way of thinking as modern humans. The following is a summation of the forces that are fighting against us. There are at least 8 categories of powerful groups that are all keeping us from ascertaining the true knowledge of the existence of these fantastic beings. Academia, Darwinists, intelligentsia, the different Bible academics, Old Testament Jewish academics, and the New Testament Christian academics. Most of the different religious institutions, a few different government bureaucracies, and the U.S. military. Oh, and let's not ever forget the deceptive, lying Smithsonian cowards, obtaining, confiscating ancient bones from burial mounds in North America that were above 7 feet tall, all the way up to 12 feet, some larger. Never to see the light of day for regular, hard-working, good, honest people, continually over decades disappearing the bones again and again. Their paradigm is non-alterable to them, and the above 8+ groups, each and all vying for self-serving self-interest of their own control mechanisms and levers of power for their own situations. So, are we going to listen to the smarty pants know-it-alls that are disgracefully corrupted, academia, Darwinists, scientists, etc., that have really only been looking at studying things for maybe 150 to 300+ years in this area of the Americas? Or are we going to listen to the people that have lived here for 12 to 20,000+ years? There is an unlimited difference in distance of having to study or analyze something for the academic perspective versus absolutely having to know everything you can about everything in your surroundings due to the hard, cold fact of brutal nature that your life may depend on that knowledge. The above 2 information paradigms are from 2 completely different ends of the spectrum of learning. Every indigenous tribe's North American noted accounts go all the way back to it further than Eric the Red battling a tribe of the super big hairy beings. That account was over 1,100 years ago. And now to top off all that, we've got the corporations that want to go global to 186 countries to exert control over humanity, tied in with big tech controlling learning and dialogue to the point of censorship. Big tech is psychologically modifying the behavior of people through weakness and orchestrated group think and fear. When it will be deemed needed, they will be called upon to act aggressively. One reason why some people are so completely refusing to talk about encounters is because it just doesn't fit in their worldview. They believe what they were taught in school, and that's it. That's all that there ever will be and ever was to them. Darwinist mentality, which leads the scientists and smarty pants quackademia. Bracket. I must give credit to the above mentioned quackademia to the late great anthropologist and author John Anthony West. Read his books, a true wildcatter and seeker of true knowledge, way out and beyond expected forced paradigms. John Anthony West was a true hero and shining example of what all men could be. Well, that was a good mouthful. May his spirit and soul bask in the undescribable, glorious presence of God in heaven. Intelligentsia and the elites are always latecomers to the verbal spewing of ridiculousness. On a government and bureaucratic level, some may know the answer. However, they cannot control it, and opening up this door will force them to open many other doors that will discredit them forever. Absolutely agree. More importantly to them, they will lose their control. Without a doubt. Academia's fears to be discredited and ashamed. Complete cowards. They fear to have their papers corruptly reassessed through their peer review, then to lose tenure and their job, and their books get taken out of the libraries and their legacy is ruined. Oh my God. Mentality, their life is over. Again, complete cowards. Intelligentsia and elitists, usually wannabes, the very wealthy. They truly think they're better than everybody else, and they know it all. F them all until the end of time. Right behind that one. Darwinists actually have become a fanatical religion. To them, it is carved in pure black and white with no chance of further postulation, discussion, or scrutiny, which is actually completely against the scientific method. Darwinists are more closed-minded than a snapping turtle. Smithsonian deceptive, liars all the way back to the mid-1800s. This group is in line with the Darwinists and all groups, the Bible academics, and the smarty pants repeaters of quackademia and the scientists. They continually discredit archaeologists and anthropologists that discover anything against the forest paradigm. They ruin good people's lives in the process. Fortitude, resilience, determination, consistency, collective brotherhood, and bravery as a group will be necessary to overcome this tyranny. Absolutely agreed. Please sign me up. Mentally prepare yourselves. Highly possible that we are not capable to comprehend an answer even if we accidentally stumble across it. Highly possible that we may never figure it out. We absolutely want to know the search is healthy. The postulating is invigorating. It could be highly possible that a final conclusion may be one that most modern humans really don't want to know. One that could completely upend our modern human existence. However, this is definitely worth the suffering and the fight. Go ahead and use my name. I do not care at all what people think of me, my memories, my conclusions, my thoughts, or my ideas. Therefore, I am free. Lee Baby. P.S. Happy Trails. Lee Baby. Let's go to the top to see your name is. Lee of G-U-I-C-E. Lee Gwis? Sorry, I suck at names sometimes, don't I? Well, that was a good mouthful. That was a good share. Blatantly spit out a whole pile of facts that myself and many other people out here listening to are aware of. And yes, it would turn everything upside down if we were taught the truth, without a doubt. Am I willing to be of assistance to turning everything upside down? Oh my God, am I ever. I'm all over it. So many people's lives are being turned upside down continuously, endlessly, relentlessly, non-stop. Why not? Why not turn anything upside down? It needs to be turned upside down. That's the only way. The truth needs to be yarded out and slap everybody in the face with it. And those dirty, manipulative pricks need to be exposed, and they need their asses dragged up and down that gravel road until they can't even walk anymore, as far as I'm concerned. And that's why we're here, right? That's why we're all here. We're all here to share true, honest facts, knowledge, finish our puzzles. I'm biting my lip. I'm trying not to really tell you how I feel about the academia. I'm biting my lip. I'm really trying not to cut loose on how I really feel about a lot of these groups who've been manipulating all of you and me, not me anymore, but many people, and still do it today. It makes me want to puke.